Today we're talking about what it means to be aromantic and asexual, also known as Aroace. If you're new to these terms or you're trying to understand more about yourself or someone in your life, then this video is for you. So what does it mean to be Aroace? So someone who is aromantic experiences little to no romantic attraction. They may have close friendships and other meaningful connections, but they just don't get those warm romantic feelings for anyone in particular. At the same time, being asexual means you experience little to no sexual attraction. For Aroace people, romantic and sexual attraction are simply just not a part of how they relate to people. For me personally, discovering that I was both aromantic and asexual was a bit of a long process that came in separate stages. I know that on some level I always knew that I wasn't sexually attracted to anyone, nor did I want to be with literally anyone in that way. Now, some aces do still engage in the action for a variety of reasons. I'm just not one of those who does. But that doesn't mean that figuring it out was any easier for me. Asexuality is certainly a conversation that's on the rise these days, but in my formative high school and college years, where those pressures were at their peak, I didn't have that language or an awareness that asexuality even existed. And when I finally did first hear about it, it was put to me so negatively that I didn't explore it as a possibility because of the way that it was presented to me. When I did figure it out, when I finally had the correct meaning and listened to people's stories, I finally saw myself. It was so freeing, and it felt like I had a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But eventually it started making me question other things too. Specifically, it made me question my romantic journey. Learning more about asexuality taught me more about other kinds of attraction, including one called queer Platonic attraction. That's this type of attraction where the person you're feeling it for, that's the type of person that society usually refers to as the one for you. But the thing is, it's not a romantic or sexual type of the one, or at least it doesn't have to be if the two of you decide that it doesn't have to be. That's something that you can work out with them if you do start a queer Platonic relationship. See, growing up, I always thought I had this huge problem. Many of my best friends, basically from middle school through college and even now, have pretty much always been females. There's a few guys in there, but mostly it's females. And I'd get really close to them, and then I'd get really worried. Because I'd get anxious if I knew that I was going to see them. I'd always want to talk to them, and basically I just always wanted to be around them. And I'd get my own version of the butterflies whenever I was around them. It was pretty much the closest thing I could ever compare to a crush. And I would get really angry with myself over that, because I always knew that if I said something, I could ruin the relationship that we already had. And one time in my senior year of high school with this girl that I took to the homecoming dance, it did. I told her how I thought I felt. Things started getting uncomfortable between us for a few weeks. Then she tried setting me up with one of her friends, which she'd never tried to do or even suggested doing before all of this went down, and things just got messier from there. Basically, we never recovered. So that fear came true, but it didn't stop that feeling from happening again later with other friends. So since I didn't know that it wasn't a crush, I pushed it down. And that hurt me in a completely different way. But learning about queer Platonic attraction was also like learning about asexuality. Finally, I had a word for what I felt. I always thought that I just wanted a romantic relationship. And I'll admit that I do still think at times that I'd like that brand of closeness. But there's a lot of other kinds of closeness. I still really love romance as a concept. And I found out that there's words for that. For loving romance as a concept and wanting a romantic relationship without experiencing romantic attraction. Those words are agoromantic and cupidoromantic. They're micro labels on the aromantic spectrum. And they're me. Now, being both aromantic and asexual can come with its own unique challenges. One of the biggest struggles is feeling out of sync with society that consistently emphasizes romantic and sexual relationships. Whether it's in movies, books, conversations with friends, expectations from family, there's this constant focus on finding the one, and for that one to be a romantic or sexual or both relationship. And for Aroace people, that can feel really, really alienating. Another challenge is dealing with the assumptions that everyone experiences romantic or sexual attraction. People might say things like, you just haven't met the right person, or you'll change your mind. It's just a phase. These assumptions can make it really hard to feel understood. And they can even lead to feelings of isolation, like you're somehow broken or you're missing out on something really important. I've definitely had moments where people I trusted and considered friends tried to force me into relationships or to pick up women on a night out. I've had people tell me it's not real, that something was wrong with me, that I'm missing out or I'm getting left behind, that I'd be alone forever. And that after that forever is over, I'd wind up spending eternity down in HE double hockey sticks. But through all of it, I've learned which relationships really do matter to me. I've learned who my people are, who always have my back. And unfortunately, I also learned who doesn't. And I've made the necessary steps to leave them behind instead. Now they're the ones missing out because they don't get to see how far I've come or what's out there ahead of me still. Even though being Aroace can feel challenging at times, I want to emphasize that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your identity is valid and it's beautiful. Just because society focuses heavily on romantic and sexual relationships doesn't mean they're necessarily what's going to make anyone happy or fulfilled. You can still form deep, meaningful connections, whether through friendships, families, or other kinds of relationships. It's also really important to find a community that understands what you're going through. There's a growing Aroace community online, and you can connect with others who share your experiences. You can even join my Discord that you can find in the description of this video. Knowing you're not alone can make a huge difference. Here are a few tips that I've found that were really helpful for navigating my life as an Aroace person. Number one is educating others. Sometimes people just don't understand what it means to be asexual and aromantic. Taking the time to explain your identity can help foster understanding. And it can help the more times that you practice what you want to say and narrow down exactly what you want to say. Have that in the back pocket and just pull it out whenever you need it. Number two is set boundaries. It's okay to set boundaries and to know your limits when it comes to people who might unintentionally or sometimes intentionally try to pressure you into conversations or situations that make you uncomfortable. You have to know your limits and you have to make them known. Number three is to embrace any kind of connection you want. You can still have any kind of relationship that you're after. Being Aroace doesn't mean that you can't date, it doesn't mean that you can't have a romantic relationship, and it doesn't mean that you can't have sex if those are things you want. Even if you're not interested in romantic or sexual relationships, that doesn't mean you can't form strong bonds. Friendships, family connections, and queer platonic relationships can be just as fulfilling. And number four is to take pride in your identity. Self-acceptance is a journey, and it's okay to take your time. It's okay to go through it in stages to try to figure out what language works for you, to change that language later if it doesn't fit you, and to be selective in who you choose to share this part of yourself with, should you decide that you even want to share it with anyone at all. Celebrate your identity and surround yourself with people who support you. At the end of the day, being aromantic and asexual is just one part of who you are. It doesn't define your worth, and it doesn't mean you're missing out on anything. You have the freedom to create your own path, to build your own version of happiness, and to live life in the way that feels right for you. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of people who understand exactly what you're going through. To wrap up, I want to share something that a friend of mine told me when I came out that has always stuck with me. She told me, "You were never broken, just on your path to discovery." Do you have any tips or words of wisdom that you want to share? Post them in the comments down below. And if this video helped, give it a thumbs up, share it out, and subscribe for more Aro and Ace content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.